Ki-sung stepped out of the transport ship and felt the artificial gravity of neutral station Ether 7 settle around him like a heavy coat. The station floated in empty space between three star systems, built centuries ago as a place where all species could meet without fear. The walls hummed with energy, and blue light reflected off polished metal surfaces. Everything was designed to feel calm and peaceful, but Ki-sung felt nervous today. He was Earth's lead diplomat, chosen because he understood how to talk to aliens. For 15 years, he had traveled between worlds, making agreements and keeping the peace. But something felt different about this meeting. The message he received was short and strange. The Galactic Council wanted to discuss something important with the human representative. That was all it said. Ki-sung walked through the corridors of the station, his footsteps echoing. Other beings passed him, Velithians with their tall, thin bodies and intelligent eyes, Kroll soldiers with their thick armor and multiple arms, Zenthral traders moving in smooth, graceful ways. They all had important roles in the galaxy. Humans were newer to all of this, only joining the council 50 years ago. When he reached the council chamber, the doors slid open. The room was massive, with a high ceiling and walls that seemed to stretch forever. At the front, arranged in a semicircle, were the senior representatives of the three most powerful species in the galaxy. Ki-sung recognized them all. He had seen them in broadcasts and read about them in history books. Minho was already there, standing in the corner. Minho was Ki-sung's junior attaché. Only 28 years old, but smart and careful. He had been born on Mars and dreamed of helping humanity find its place among the stars. He gave Ki-sung a small, uncertain smile. The Velithian representative stood first. Her name was Council Leader Shithal, and she was one of the oldest beings in the galaxy. Shithal had ruled the Velithian Empire for 300 years. Her face was smooth and pale, and her eyes were bright blue, like water under ice. Ki-sung, diplomat of Earth, Shithal said, her voice soft but powerful. Thank you for coming to hear our proposal. Ki-sung bowed slightly. It is my honor to serve the Galactic Council, he replied. I am ready to hear what you wish to discuss. The Kroll representative, Commander Greth, spoke next. His voice was rough and deep, like stone grinding against stone. The Kroll were warriors and soldiers, and they had always been honest about what they wanted. Greth had 4 arms, and he folded them across his chest as he spoke. We bring news of a new initiative, Greth said. We call it the Harmony Accord. It is meant to make our galaxy safer for all species. Ki-sung felt his stomach tighten. He had learned to trust his instincts, and his instincts told him to be careful. The third representative, Counselor Vex of the Zenthral, moved forward. The Zenthral were smaller than humans, with large black eyes and skin that seemed to shift between colors. Vex was known for being quiet and thoughtful, always studying before speaking. The accord is simple, Vex said in a gentle voice. We have studied all the species in our galaxy. We have learned that some races have stronger instincts for conflict and competition than others. Humans, your species has great potential, but you also have dangerous tendencies. Your history is filled with war and violence. Ki-sung wanted to interrupt, but he stayed quiet. This was how diplomacy worked. You listened first. Shithal continued. We propose that all species in the Galactic Council submit to a gentle process that will help calm aggressive impulses and increase cooperation. It is not painful. It is not punishment. It is simply an improvement, like medicine for the mind. You want to change us? Ki-sung asked carefully. We want to improve you, Greth said, to make humanity ready for peace. Minho shifted nervously in the corner. Ki-sung could see that his young colleague understood what this really meant. The council was not asking. They were telling. I will bring this message to Earth's leaders, Ki-sung said. This is important. They must decide together. Of course, Shithal said, smiling, but her smile did not reach her eyes. You have 30 days to accept the Harmony Accord. After that, we will implement it for your own good, whether you agree or not. The words hung in the air like a threat. Ki-sung felt cold. You will vote? He asked. We have already voted, Councillor Vex said quietly. In private session yesterday, the vote was unanimous. The Harmony Accord will happen. Ki-sung left the chamber in a daze. Minho caught up with him in the corridor, walking quickly to keep pace. Did they just declare war on us? Minho whispered. No, Ki-sung said slowly. Worse. They declared that we don't have the right to be ourselves. The flight back to Earth took 3 weeks. Ki-sung had time to think, and that was dangerous. He thought about what the Council had said. They wanted to change what humans were at the deepest level. They wanted to take away the parts of humanity that made people brave, that made them willing to fight for what they believed in, that made them choose their own path even when it was hard. When Ki-sung arrived at Earth Command in Washington, D.C., Director Hai-jin was waiting for him. Hai-jin was the leader of Earth's Defense Council, and she was not happy. Tell me everything, Hai-jin said, and Ki-sung did. He told her about the proposal, about the vote that had already happened in secret, about the deadline. He told her about the gentle words wrapped around a harsh reality. Hai-jin listened without interrupting. When Ki-sung finished, she was quiet for a long time. They fear us, she finally said. Yes, Ki-sung agreed. But I do not understand why. Because we can choose, Hai-jin said. They cannot. And what they cannot control, they wish to destroy. Ki-sung nodded slowly. He had come to the same conclusion, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. The secret ballot was more than just a vote. It was a declaration. It meant the Galactic Council saw humanity as something that needed to be broken, to be fixed, to be made safe, and they were willing to do it by force. Ki-sung knew that Earth would have to make a choice, the same kind of choice that had always defined humanity. They could surrender, accept the conditioning, and become what the Council wanted them to be. Or they could resist and face the power of the galaxy's oldest and strongest species. It was not a choice that anyone wanted to make, but it was a choice that would define humanity's future. The underground archives beneath Earth Command were cold and quiet, rows of metal shelves stretched into darkness, holding centuries of files, documents, and recordings. It was here that Narration worked, keeping track of all of humanity's official records. She was a careful person, organized and precise. Every document had its place, and she knew where everything was. Narration had been an archivist for 12 years. She loved her job because it felt important. History was not just stories. History was proof. Proof of what humans had done, what they had learned, and who they had chosen to become. Director Hai-jin came to see her one morning, and Narration knew immediately that something serious had happened. Hai-jin's face was tight with worry. I need to ask you something, Hai-jin said, and I need you to keep it secret for now. Of course, Narration replied. Do we have files from the first contact with the Velithians, from 70 years ago? Narration thought for a moment. Yes, we do, but most of those files are classified. Why do you ask? I need to know what really happened, Hai-jin said. The official story is one thing, but I need to know the truth. Narration understood immediately. Director Hai-jin was looking for something that the Galactic Council did not want people to know. Narration had lived long enough to understand that the official story and the real story were sometimes very different things. Follow me, Narration said. They walked deeper into the archives, past thousands of files, until they reached a section marked Early Contact Classified. Narration entered her security code, and a metal door slid open. Inside was a small room filled with old data drives and paper files. Few people ever came here. Narration found what she was looking for. The file was marked Valithian Trade Dispute, First Contact Resolution. She pulled up the information on a screen, and both women began to read. What they discovered made Darayum's breath catch. 70 years ago, when humans first met the Valithians, there had been a misunderstanding. A human trade ship had accidentally disrupted a Valithian transport system. The Valithians took this as an insult, almost an act of war. They responded by attacking human ships. The situation spiraled. Within months, humans had the power to completely destroy the Valithian fleet, but they did not. Instead, the human leader at that time, a woman named General Park Min-Soo, chose to stop fighting. She sent a message to the Valithians saying that humans did not want war. She offered to rebuild what had been damaged. She asked for forgiveness, and she forgave the Valithians in return. The Valithians were shocked. They had expected humans to be like them, to fight for dominance, to crush their enemies, to take what they wanted. But humans did something different. They chose mercy. Why was this not shared? Darayum asked. This shows that humans are peaceful. Because, He-Jin said slowly, it shows something else too. It shows that humans are strong enough to choose peace, and that frightens them. They sat in silence for a moment, understanding dawning on them both. Read more, He-Jin said. Tell me what else is here. Darayum spent hours pulling up files. She found records of human wars throughout history. But she also found something remarkable. Almost every human war eventually ended in peace. Humans wrote poetry about their enemies after fighting them. They built memorials to honor those they had killed, even the ones who had attacked them first. Over and over, humans chose to understand their enemies, to forgive them, and to move forward together. It was not something that other species did. The Kroll did not forgive their enemies. They eliminated them. The Valithians did not show mercy. They dominated. The Zenthral calculated advantages and disadvantages, and they acted only when the numbers favored them. But humans were different. Humans fought, and then humans healed. Humans were brutal when they needed to be, but they were also capable of remarkable kindness. I need to talk to someone, Darayum said. Someone who studies how alien minds work. Someone who can explain what this means. I know someone, He-Jin said. Her name is Ji-Woo, and she is the best xenopsychologist on Earth. Ji-Woo worked at the University of Tokyo in a research center that studied how different species thought and behaved. When Darayum and He-Jin visited her, they found a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an intense way of speaking. Darayum showed Ji-Woo the files. She explained what they had discovered. She asked what it meant that humans could be strong and peaceful at the same time. Ji-Woo read through the documents carefully, her expression growing more serious with each page. When she finished, she looked up at both of them. Do you understand what you have found? Ji-Woo asked. Something that frightens the council, He-Jin said. Yes, Ji-Woo said. But let me explain it scientifically. Every species in the Galactic Council evolved in a specific way. The Valithians developed in a hive-like society. They do what the leader tells them to do. They do not question. The Kroll evolved as warriors. Their brains are wired for dominance and conquest. The Zenthral are collectors and traders. They think in terms of profit and loss, advantage and disadvantage. But humans? Darayum asked. Humans are different, Ji-Woo said. Your brains developed in a way that allows you to choose. You can be violent, yes, but you can also choose not to be. You can think about abstract ideas like justice and mercy. You can ask yourself, is this right? And then change your behavior based on your answer. This ability to choose your own path, to be better than your instincts, this is extremely rare in the galaxy. The Council wants to take this away, He-Jin said quietly. If they use neural conditioning on humans, yes, Ji-Woo said. They would remove your ability to choose. You would either become docile and passive, or you would become unpredictable and dangerous. You would lose the thing that makes you human. You would lose your ability to be moral. Darium felt cold. She understood now. The Council did not want to improve humanity. They wanted to break something that was beautiful and rare. They wanted to turn humans into something they could control, and they called it progress. "What do we do?" Darium asked. "We tell people the truth," Jiwoo said firmly. "We show them that humans are strong because they choose to be good. We prove that our nature is not a disease to be cured. It is a strength that the galaxy has never seen before." Heijin stood up. "Then that is what we will do, and we will do it before the Council can silence us." The three women looked at each other, understanding that they had just started something that might change everything. They had found the truth hidden in the archives. Now they had to make sure that truth reached the people who needed to hear it. The secret ballot had declared war on humanity's true nature. But what the Council did not know was that humanity was about to fight back, not with weapons, but with truth. The news spread across Earth like fire. First, it was shared quietly, among friends and family. Then it moved to social networks and news stations. By the end of the week, every human being knew what the Galactic Council had planned for them. The response was complicated. Some people were afraid. They thought it was better to accept the Council's offer than to face the power of the galaxy's most advanced species. These people gathered in cities and towns, holding signs that said, "Safety over choice," and "Accept the accord." They were not wrong to be afraid. The Council was powerful, and the stakes were high. But other people felt something different. They felt angry. They felt like the Council was trying to take something from them that they could not afford to lose. They felt like humanity was being told it was broken, and they did not believe that was true. In Seoul, South Korea, a young woman named Soo Jin sat in a coffee shop and read the news on her phone. Soo Jin was 26 years old and had served in the military for 4 years before becoming an activist. She had trained to protect people. She had learned to be strong. Now she read about the Council's plan to take away humanity's ability to choose, and something inside her refused to accept it. Soo Jin was not the type to hide. She did not wait for others to act. Within days, she was organizing meetings in the coffee shop. She spoke to anyone who would listen. She told them that humanity had always been defined by the ability to choose. Humans were not strong because they were forced to be good. Humans were strong because they chose to be good, even when they could have chosen something else. "The Council fears what we are," Soo Jin said to a growing crowd one evening. "They fear that we can choose. They want to make us like them, like machines that follow programs. But if we accept their conditioning, we are saying that we do not trust ourselves. We are saying that our ability to choose is something dangerous. I do not believe that." People listened. They began to gather in larger and larger groups. Some agreed with Soo Jin. Some did not. But everyone was talking about it now. The secret that the Council had wanted to keep hidden was now the most important conversation in the world. In another part of the world, Ki-sung was preparing for a crucial government meeting. He sat with Director Hai-jin and other world leaders in a conference room. The television screens showed protests and debates happening in every country. Some demanded acceptance, some demanded resistance, some demanded something in between. "We have 23 days left," Hai-jin said, looking at the calendar. "What do we do?" "We cannot win a military war," said General Tom, the head of Earth's defense forces. "The Council has ships and weapons that we do not understand. Any direct conflict would end in our defeat." "We do not need to win a military war," Darium said. She had been invited to the meeting because her research was important to their decision. "We need to show the truth. We need to show the galaxy that humans are not a problem to be solved. We need to show them what we really are." Jiwoo was there too, presenting her scientific findings. She showed graphs and data that proved humans had a unique capability for moral choice. She showed how neural conditioning would remove that capability. She explained in clear language why the Council's plan would destroy something precious. Minho stood in the corner, as he always did. But this time he was thinking deeply. He had access to diplomatic channels. He had connections to people on other stations and other worlds. He knew that not all Valethians agreed with Council leader Shethal. He knew that some young Kroll warriors questioned the orders they were given. He knew that some Zenthral traitors were uncomfortable with the plan. "There are allies," Minho said quietly. "We are not completely alone." Director Hai-Jin looked at him. "Can you contact them?" "I can try," Minho said. "Carefully." Over the next days, Minho sent secret messages through hidden channels. He reached out to people he knew, to people he had met during diplomatic missions, to people who believed in choice and freedom. He told them what was happening. He asked them to consider supporting Earth. At the same time, Sujin's movement grew. Millions of humans joined her cause. They were not organizing for war. They were organizing to show the world and the galaxy what humanity really was. They documented their choices. They filmed themselves choosing mercy when they could have chosen revenge. They shared stories of forgiveness. They wrote poetry and music about the beauty of freedom and choice. Then, on day 18, Minho discovered something that changed everything. Through a Kroll officer he had befriended, he learned that the Council was planning a false flag operation. They would stage an incident, something that appeared to be caused by humans. Then they would use it as an excuse to invade Earth and force the conditioning on humanity by military force. Minho brought this information to Ki-sung immediately. "This is not about law," Ki-sung said, understanding at last what was really happening. "This is about control." The human leadership met again. This time they understood the danger completely. The Council was not going to wait for Earth to comply. They were going to force compliance no matter what. "We have two choices," Director Hai-Jin said. "We fight, and we probably lose. Or we do something they do not expect." "What?" asked General Tom. Darium had an idea. "We show them who we are. We make a broadcast. We show the galaxy every moment where humans chose to be better than their instincts. We prove that what the Council wants to take away is not dangerous." "It is beautiful." "They might destroy the broadcast before it spreads," said General Tom. "Maybe," Darium said. "But maybe not. Maybe some part of the galaxy will see it. Maybe it will make other species question what they have been told. Maybe it will not be enough to save us. But it is the only thing that honors what we are." Sujin was brought into the meeting. When they explained the plan to her, she smiled. "My movement is already doing this," she said. "Humans are already documenting their choices. All we need to do is make it public." So they began the project. Scientists and artists worked together. Historians and soldiers, teachers and activists. They compiled hours and hours of human history and human choice. They showed the Valethians what it meant to forgive. They showed the Kroll what it meant to choose peace when you could have chosen war. They showed the Zenthral what it meant to value something that could not be traded or bought. On the 23rd day, the false flag operation happened. A Council ship attacked an Earth station, but the attack was recorded. The data proved it was Council ships, not human ships, that had committed the violence. Ki-sung was ready. He took to the diplomatic channel and broadcast a simple message to the galaxy. "You voted in secret, we choose in the light, and you are about to discover what that means." Then Darium's broadcast went live. For the first time, the galaxy was going to see what human choice really looked like. The broadcast started with a simple image, a human face, an old man with kind eyes and deep wrinkles. His name was Park Jae-sung, and he had survived Earth's last major war. The war had killed his family. It had taken his home. It had given him every reason to hate. Jae-sung sat in a chair and spoke to the camera. His voice was soft and calm. "My son died in that war," he said. "He died because another person pulled a trigger. For many years I hated that person. I wanted revenge. I wanted to make them suffer as much as I had suffered. I was strong enough to do it. I was angry enough to do it. But I chose not to." The broadcast showed Jae-sung visiting the person who had killed his son. He sat with them in a prison cell. He talked to them. And slowly, over years, they became friends. They cried together. They forgave each other. "I chose mercy," Jae-sung said to the camera. "Not because I had to, but because I could." Across the galaxy, beings watched. The broadcast was spreading faster than the council could stop it. Every network was carrying it. Every species was seeing it. The second part of the broadcast showed a general who had surrendered power rather than hold on to it. She had been offered the chance to stay in control, but she believed someone else was better for the job, so she stepped down. She gave away power when she could have kept it. Then came a soldier who had protected an enemy. The enemy had been trying to kill him, but when the soldier had a chance to let that enemy die, he saved them instead. He gave them water. He gave them medicine. He chose compassion over justice. A young girl was shown teaching another child from a different species. The two children had every reason to fear each other. Their peoples had fought in the past. But the girl chose to share what she knew. She chose to build friendship instead of walls. A scientist was shown giving away an important discovery. She could have patented it and made herself rich and powerful. Instead, she shared it with everyone because she believed knowledge belonged to all beings, not just to those who were strong enough to control it. The broadcast went on for hours. Thousands of humans, thousands of choices, thousands of moments where people could have been selfish or cruel or violent, but chose something else instead. On a Velithian warship, Commander Shethal watched the broadcast. She stood absolutely still. Her face did not move, but something in her mind was moving, something shifting and changing. A young Velithian officer stood beside her, watching too. The officer saw a human woman choosing to be honest when lying would have made her life easier. The officer saw humans building bridges instead of walls. The officer saw humans choosing to trust each other even when trust could be broken. "This is," the officer began, but did not finish. There were no words. On a Kroll battleship, Commander Greth watched a human father refuse to teach his son to hate. The father had every right to teach his son hatred. The son's mother had been killed by the species that this hatred would target. But the father chose to teach his son compassion instead. Greth had been trained his entire life to think in terms of victory and defeat. He had learned that strength meant dominance, but he was watching something he had never seen before. He was watching strength being used to protect instead of to conquer. He was watching power being used to build instead of to destroy. In the secret back channels, Minho was receiving messages from his allies. Younger Velithians who were questioning their leaders. Young Kroll who were wondering if war was truly the only way. Zenthral traders who realized that some things could not be bought or sold. "The broadcast is working," Minho reported to Director Hai-Jin. "Not in the way we hoped, but it is working." "What do you mean?" Hai-Jin asked. "The galaxy is divided," Minho said. "Some species are more convinced than ever that humanity is dangerous, but others are beginning to wonder if the Council is right. They are seeing humanity as something that should be studied, not destroyed." Meanwhile, Su Jin was leading Earth's defenses in a different way. She and her team had discovered the systems that the Council was using to control information. They did not attack these systems with weapons. Instead, they exposed them. They showed the galaxy how the Council had been hiding information. They revealed the vote that had been taken in secret. They showed the false flag operation that the Council had staged. The evidence was clear and overwhelming. The Council had lied. They had hidden the truth. They had tried to manipulate events to start a war. On Earth, Narration and Jiwoo worked together to explain what the broadcast meant. They gave interviews to news stations. They wrote articles that explained the science behind human moral choice. They showed that what the Council wanted to take away was not a disease or a flaw. It was a gift. It was what made humans special. Every species in the galaxy can follow orders, Narration said in an interview. But humans can choose whether to follow those orders, and that is different. Humans can ask themselves if something is right or wrong. They can change their minds. They can choose to be better. That is not a problem. That is what we should be protecting, not destroying. By day 4 of the broadcast, something unexpected happened. Other species began to protest. Young Velithians organized demonstrations. They questioned why the Council was so afraid of humanity. Younger Kroll soldiers refused to participate in military operations. Zenthral citizens demanded a new vote, this time in public instead of in secret. The Council tried to stop the broadcast, but it was too late. It had already spread to every corner of the galaxy. It had already changed minds. Councillor Vex of the Zenthral called for a new vote on the Harmony Accord. This time, it would be public. This time, every species would have a say. This time, there would be no secrets. The Council was breaking apart. The unity they had created was shattered, and it was shattered by the simple truth of what humans really were. Su Jin stood in a public square in Seoul and watched the news on large screens. The vote was happening. The Kroll Collective announced that they would not support the accord. The younger Velithians were demanding the removal of Council leader Shithal. The Zenthral were negotiating peace with Earth. "We did it," someone said next to Su Jin. It was Minho. "We showed them who we are," Su Jin said. "Yes," Minho said, "and it was enough." But the battle was not completely over. The Council still had military power. Council leader Shithal still commanded ships, but she was no longer unified with the other species. She was isolated. Ki-sung watched from Earth as the galaxy transformed. A coalition was forming. Species that valued freedom and choice were coming together. Species that had been controlled by the Council for too long were breaking free. The secret ballot had tried to declare war on humanity's true nature. But humanity's true nature was stronger than anyone had expected. Not because humans were better warriors, but because humans were something the galaxy had never truly understood before. Humans were beings who could choose to be moral, and once the galaxy saw that, nothing would ever be the same. 6 months after the broadcast went public, the galaxy was healing. Not perfectly, but genuinely. The old Galactic Council was gone, replaced by something messier and slower and far more democratic. Representatives from every species now had to vote in public. Every decision was recorded. Every voice mattered. Ki-sung sat in the new council chamber and looked around. The room was crowded with beings of different shapes and sizes, different colors and forms of consciousness. There were young Velithians who questioned the old ways. There were Kroll soldiers who had chosen peace. There were Zenthral traders who had realized some things were more valuable than profit. And there were humans, not ruling the galaxy, but part of it, speaking their truth and being heard. The new vote on the Harmony Accord was simple. The question was asked in public, recorded by every news organization in the galaxy. Do we support the Harmony Accord, which would condition all member species to suppress aggressive genetic traits? The answer was a clear no. Council leader Shithal had resigned 3 months earlier, and the Velithian Empire had elected new leaders. The Kroll Collective had split in two, with the progressive faction taking control. The Zenthral had reformed their trading practices to be more transparent and fair. It was not a perfect solution. It was complicated and slow and frustrating, but it was honest. Narration had become the chief archivist for the new council. Her job was to keep records of everything that happened in the new government. She wanted to make sure that what had been hidden in secret before would never be hidden again. Transparency is harder than secrecy, Narration told a group of students who had come to learn about the new system. It takes longer. More people have to agree on things. There are more arguments. But it means the truth is kept safe. It means no one can hide what is being done in the dark. Jiwoo had published a book called The Nature of Choice: How Consciousness Becomes Moral. It had become the most read scientific text in the galaxy. Schools on dozens of worlds were teaching it to their young. Species that had never thought about morality before were beginning to understand that morality only existed when you had the choice to do wrong and chose not to. A Velithian scholar had written a response to Jiwoo's work. He explained that his species had always assumed humans were primitive because they did not follow orders perfectly. But now he understood that free choice made humans advanced, not primitive. A Kroll warrior had written an article called Why I Chose Peace. In it, she described how watching the broadcast had changed her understanding of strength. Strength, she had learned, was not about defeating your enemies. Strength was about choosing not to hurt someone when you could hurt them. Strength was about mercy. Minho had become the head of the new Interspecies Democratic Commission. His job was to help all the different species learn how to work together, not as masters and servants, but as equals. It was hard work. Sometimes species did not agree. Sometimes old prejudices came back. But Minho believed in what they were building. In Seoul, Soo-jin had stepped away from the public attention that had come her way. She did not want to be a leader. She wanted to be a teacher. She worked with young people, helping them understand what choice meant, what freedom meant, what responsibility meant. Freedom is not the same as doing whatever you want, she told her students. Freedom is the responsibility to choose well, to think about other people, to try to do what is right. Anyone can be free, but not everyone chooses to use that freedom wisely. On a Kroll military base, the commander of a training program was teaching new soldiers something that would have been unthinkable a year ago. She was teaching them about mercy. She was teaching them that the strongest soldiers were not the ones who killed the most enemies, but the ones who could control their power and choose when to use it and when not to use it. The broadcast showed us something, the commander told her soldiers. It showed us that there are beings in this galaxy who are strong enough to destroy their enemies, but choose not to. If we want to be truly strong, we must learn to do the same. We must be warriors, but also peacemakers. The broadcast itself had become historical. Schools taught it to their young. Philosophers studied it to understand what it meant to be moral. Artists and musicians created works based on it. Some called it the most important document in galactic history. But Narration, who had helped create it, understood something important. The broadcast was not the source of change. It was simply the proof of change. The change came from humans themselves, from Jae-sung choosing to forgive instead of hate, from the general choosing to give away power, from the father choosing to teach love instead of hatred. The broadcast only showed what humans had always been capable of doing, and once the galaxy saw it, once they understood that choice and morality were possible, they could never go back to believing that they were not. In the new council chamber, a young Zenthral representative stood to speak. She had come to praise the humans for their courage. But she said something more important. What humanity showed us, she said, is that all of us have the capacity for choice. All of us can decide to be better. The Galactic Council tried to take that away from humans. But what we have learned in these 6 months is that this capacity for choice is not something humans have alone. We all have it. We have all just been afraid to use it. Ki-sung nodded slowly, understanding that she was right. The secret ballot had tried to declare war on humanity's true nature, but in doing so, it had sparked something far more powerful. It had awakened the galaxy to its own potential. It had shown that choice was possible for all beings, not just humans. The work was not finished. There was still much to do. Many species still carried old prejudices. Many systems still needed to be rebuilt. Trust would take time to build. But for the first time in the galaxy's history, all beings were working toward the same goal, not because they had been forced to, but because they had chosen to. And that choice, made freely by beings from dozens of different species, was the most powerful force in the galaxy.